not just the flow, the cash flow, but also the flow in our daily life. How can we create that so that we can every day, have certain rituals that make us feel powerful? And I don't mean powerful with a negative connotation, but powerful to be centered, to be able to, no matter what's going on in your life, still be grounded in order for you to be, no matter what circumstance somebody is coming, to you with, that you can be of service and not necessarily snap at people and short-tempered. Because I notice, at least for myself, when I fall into that is because I have not given myself the time to rejuvenate, to restore, to really take care of me. And that's when, as my daughter would say, Grumpy, Mama, did you do your meditation today?
Hey, it's Rocky. Welcome to Richer Soul. Today's guest is Michelle Bosch, who created a life of abundance through flipping land. Listen in as she shares principles you can use in your life to also have abundance. Imagine it's 12 months from now, and you've achieved your major life goals. How does it feel to be in the best shape of your life? To wake up energized, excited about the day? To have great relationships and friends who support you and propel you forward? How does it feel to have an excess of money, to be able to make the choices you want? To be fearless and open to trying new adventures? Imagine being connected to the universe and it providing everything you desire. It's possible over time, and your past does not dictate your future. The only thing holding you back from this vision is you. It's time to take control of our thoughts and use them to our advantage. Welcome to Richer Soul, where we achieve our dreams and bring balance to health, wealth, relationships, time, and spirituality. If you have not had a chance to listen to episodes 1 through 9, I encourage you to go back and listen to the framework behind Richer Soul and how to create the life of your dreams. You can also find all the show notes for this episode at richersoul.com. While you're there, you can sign up for a monthly email where I share the best articles I read this month, let you know about upcoming episodes, and share a little wisdom. You can also listen to coaching calls under the Coaching Calls tab. I also share the most interesting articles I read every week on Facebook at facebook.com/Richer Soul. And there's also a Facebook group where you can ask questions and interact with other listeners. Today's quote is from Ralph Waldo Emerson. To be yourself in a world which is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. I think that quote applies to today's episode. Michelle was given one path at birth, but she decided to take a different one. It took a lot of work and self-development, and she succeeded to create her abundant life. It's also a reason to get out of the drift. I take my clients through a journey to create their life plans. The end result is clarity about what you want in life. It's amazing. It also causes you to think about what you truly want and to have clarity. I was just at a tech meetup in town, and they were discussing venture capital and how to make the pitch. While it's not something I want to do, the principles he shared were quite interesting because I saw those same principles in use in other parts of my life. It's the same as looking for a job or building a network. The first was to connect before you needed anything. People are always happy to share knowledge and help people out. Once you connect, if you follow their advice, they become your cheerleader. They want you to succeed. What a different approach than to show up when you want something and they are on guard. Also, understand the needs of the people in the room. He mentioned one person during his VC pitch for money said he never wanted to sell the company. Well, that's the wrong answer because the VC makes money when you sell your company. That ended the discussion about funding quite quickly. Make sure you're in alignment with what you seek and you know what the people in the room want. Last week's action step, was right on point to everything we've talking about. Take the time to decide what you want your future to look like. And then make sure you're in the right place to accomplish that. We're going to go deep in that subject with Michelle, and creating your life plan helps you to do just that. Michelle Bosch is the co-founder and CFO of Orbit Investments and a full-time real estate investor since 2002. She has bought and sold over 4,000 pieces of real estate and built the third largest land investment and auction company in the U.S., bringing that company successfully into the 8-figure revenues in a matter of 18 months. Through the recession, she positioned Orbit Investments for rapid growth in the single-family and multifamily investing space, with over $40 million in assets under management. Michelle is also the co-creator of the nationally recognized Land Profit Generator program, focusing on teaching others how to invest in land, and has created over 145,000 followers via the Forever Cash podcast radio show. Her businesses have been featured on Inc., Fox, NBC, ABC, and Forbes, and she holds an MBA Business Finance from the Thunderbird Global School for International Management, the world's #1 graduate school in international management. Let's meet our guest. Welcome to Rich Your Soul, Michelle Bosch. It's great to have you join us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Rocky. I'm excited to be here. Looking forward very much to this conversation.
And I'm excited to have you join us. So we always start at the beginning. What was it like when you were growing up, and how much did your family and school teach you about money?
I'm actually a first-generation immigrant here into the U.S. So I was born in Honduras, Central America. And I always say that I was raised by my mother as a single mom because my father passed away when I was very young. Before he passed away, though, like a couple of years before, he had purchased, a piece of commercial property. And that investment in real estate, I think, really has shaped how I look at money. And because he was able pretty much to, have the ability to take care of us even after he was gone, even when he was no longer physically there. I think without that investment and the passive cash flow that, we were able to enjoy and continue to enjoy to this day, my mother, she would have not been able to, as an elementary teacher in a third world country, she would have not been able to teach, to send me to very good schools, to private schools so that I could even learn English, as a second language. I wouldn't be able to speak to you right now, if that would have not happened, to come here to the U.S. to study abroad, And once I came here, I did what everyone does, which was to get a job. And I hated the job part. But anyways, as I was growing up, I guess the biggest on a day-to-day basis, influence on my life was my mother. And I remember that when I was growing up, I would have chores around the house, I think like most people growing up. And I remember, if it was my time to clean bathrooms or any chores around the house, my mom always said, even if you're cleaning the bathroom, you do the best that you can and you take pride in your work, which for me translated, from a very young age that, wow, I'm putting into this, job, the best of me. And so for me, money at that point in time, and I wasn't being paid for it, but I knew that that was the beginning of, if I'm doing this, which is a simple chore at home, when I go out there, in the workplace and I'm going to be giving the best of me, I'm going to be exchanging it, for the best of someone else. And so for me, money, that's really what it means, what it means to me. It means the best of me. In exchange for the best of someone else. I always, there's a lot of mixed feelings around money. And I always felt like money was neutral in terms of whether, it's not either bad or good. It depends on the charge that you give it, the why of why you're engaging in money making and the intention behind it and the presence that you are giving to whatever it is that you're doing in order to, to create or generate, cash or money. So that's kind of how I grew up with, in terms of seeing, wow, my mom has a job. She is an elementary teacher. She's exchanging hours for dollars. But then there was this one property that supplemented, that income incredibly well to the point of, allowing me to do what very few people in my country are able to do, which is, to go to a private school, to learn a language, to even use that property as collateral for loan in order for us to be able to afford, the 3.5 years of university here. And so I had the combination of that, of seeing, okay, this is what it's done in terms of allowing us to have some kind of financial freedom in a way. But I can also see the example of my mother, because that's what she was taught. She was born in a generation where, as a lady, you could either become a teacher or be in the nursing vocation of some sort. And so she was a teacher, but she was exchanging hours for dollars. That's kind of how I grew up in the context of money, with seeing a lot of people in my country. There's an incredible disparity between the haves and have-nots. Just being poor is relative in general. Poverty is relative, because I know there's a lot of poor people here in the U.S. It's just that, when you come from a third world country, you see a different, more raw kind of, poverty, and it's palpable every day. You walk out, from the doors of your house, and I'm just feel so blessed to, to have been able so far to have, because of that upbringing, the drive, the hunger to create a better world for my family now than the one that I left. And also have the desire to create a bigger future, not just for myself, but for others. So that's pretty much, how I grew up.
And we have very much somewhat of a similar immigrant story. I came a little bit earlier to the United States, and my mom also passed away when I was young. So I was more so raised by my dad. And you are correct. When you come from a third world country, America's poor are the rich of the world. It's just night and day. I don't think people realize what truly, we use the words poor, but in the rest of the world, they truly have poor, unlike the United States, as far as the average person and what they have to deal with. So when did you actually leave Honduras and come to the U.S.?
Yeah, so I came here to study in 1995. I graduated in the summer of 1999. I came originally to Chicago, to like a university like 3 hours southwest of Chicago. We had the money for about 3 years of schooling and living expenses. I worked also. I had an assistantship, which covered part of my tuition. I had a second job at the lobby of one of the, of the dorms. And just, try to supplement and make the best and get it done. In those 3 years that I had, I took summer courses every single summer. I took up to 6 classes a semester, which for, I guess, the university, it was unheard of. But, coming from back home, from a very rigorous school, very good academic school, I mean, the load for me was not a problem. And they were able to give me a probationary semester where they were going to allow me to take 6 courses here in college. And they saw that, I aced them all. So they're like, okay, you're going to continue doing that. So I was able to graduate, in just those 3 years, because we didn't have the money to for me to diddle daddle in college and take an entire 4 years, to do my undergrad. I met my husband in that last semester in school. He was there completing an MBA. He was from Germany. He is from Germany. And we decided to, give that relationship a try. And we both got jobs. We were able to both find employers that were willing to sponsor our working visas and eventually our green cards. And we worked, and we were working 100% travel. He was working for a software consultant business, and I was working for Motorola as a financial analyst. And, after traveling extensively to the Latin America area, because it was for a regional division of Motorola, for Latin America, to take advantage of the ability for me to speak Spanish, of course. And we just, we would barely see each other. We hated it. And we started looking elsewhere, because I felt like, during that time frame, we needed those jobs. They were our ticket to, a permanent residency here in the U.S. But from a financial thinking standpoint, I kind of feel like during that time, I had kind of lost my way. I hadn't, I kind of forgot, what that commercial property had done for me in Honduras. And I kind of lost my way. And then eventually, I talked to my husband about that, experience and what it had afforded me and what it continues to afford now, for my mother into retirement. And we're like, okay, let's start looking into real estate. And we started looking into, house flipping. But both of us not being from here, him from Germany, construction is completely different for the German winter. For us, we have hurricanes, so also construction completely different. For us, going into a junker and trying to estimate repairs, on a roof, on a kitchen, on flooring, it was more than we could handle, and it required a lot of skill sets that, to be frank, we didn't have, in that moment. It requires you to have incredible negotiation skills to immediately, when a seller says, I'm interested, to meet them at the property, to assess, to have a buyer's list ready in order for you to be able to wholesale that property there's a lot of pieces that we didn't have. And so we kind of stumbled into land investing as a result of us not having all, our ducks in a row, on the improved property, landscape. And so I remember us looking into, at the very beginning, something that completely rocked our world, which was tax lien and tax deed investing. Here in the U.S., if you don't pay your property taxes, you actually can lose your property. They can, depending on the state, half of the United States is a tax lien state, and half of the United States is a tax deed state. And so depending on whether they can auction off your tax lien, you have anywhere from 3 to 5 years to really pay your taxes, get caught up, or, you'll be able, if you're the tax lien investor, you can foreclose on someone's property. Or if you go to a tax deed investor state, they auction your property right off. So I remember me finding about that, and Jack and me were like, it like completely rocked our world, that you could lose your private property to non-payment of property taxes, because for both of us in either country, that's just like completely unheard of. And I remember us, I going to a county auction out in Sonoma County, California. And of course, me being completely naive, I was always outbid. Everyone that was there knew each other. You could tell that they had been doing that for quite some time, that I was a newcomer, and I kind of like felt like a small fish in a tank infested with sharks, and incredibly competitive. So needless to say, we weren't successful there, but I was able to, on one of the properties that I was bidding on, one of the owners said, well, you know what? I have a piece of land that I am interested in selling. You could take a look into it. And so we took a look into it. We looked at what values were. And that's kind of how appetite for land opened up for us. And so, it was interesting, because now we had found something that we could purchase, that we could flip, and that wasn't houses. So now our next thinking was, wow, if this lady, didn't have any taxes on her property and is still looking to sell at a discount, even though it's land, I don't even need to wait for property to be tax delinquent to come to a tax auction, to contact an owner and buy their land from them. So we started basically using direct mail. And over the years, it took us a couple of years, almost 2.5 years, to really develop, a methodology where we can buy, land for 10 to 25 cents on the dollar and then flip it, for maybe 50, 60 cents on the dollar, making it an irresistible offer in the marketplace compared to other comparable properties. And that method now is called the land profit generator method, because now, we teach this as well. But that's kind of how we started. And then, the situation came where somebody asked, I don't have the full $25K on a piece of property or a piece of land that we were selling, but I could give you, a $2,000 down payment. And we had paid maybe like $1,200 for that piece of land. And so we were going to have our money back and some. And then they offered to pay, $500 every month for the next 5 years or so. And we're like ecstatic. And that's kind of how we also stumbled into the seller financing as well. And then, it was like, okay, this This is another way for us to create, passive cash flow, which was similar to what I had experienced when I was growing up, except that passive cash flow from the notes, would end at some point. Because of the fact that, the passive cash flow in the land investing ends at some point, about 4 years ago, like I was telling you right before we got, we got on the show, we started also investing in apartment syndication. And we love apartments. They give us an incredible amount of tax incentives and tax advantages, by doing cost segregation studies. The depreciation that we're able to take, really shelters a lot of the profits that we do on the land investing, on the land flipping side. But at the cornerstone, it has been, land is still deep to our heart. It has been the vehicle within real estate, or the niche within real estate, that has allowed us to really experience what I like, to call, and I'm borrowing this from a gentleman by the name of Dan Sullivan, the 4 freedoms. And that is the freedom of money, the freedom of time, the freedom of relationships, and the freedom of purpose. Land has been incredibly good to us. It's deep in our DNA now. We can do that with our eyes closed. And what it has allowed us is now to really, once you take care of your immediate needs and your extended family, you start looking out to, okay, how can I serve the community? How can I serve, the world on a much larger scale? And it has really allowed us to basically put our methodology, and package it and allow other entrepreneurial families such as ourselves to also create a bigger future for themselves and others. So land is how we started in real estate, and eventually, as we grew as investors, as we grew as individuals, it allowed us to really use that in other asset classes that eventually give you 100% what we call forever cash, which is cash that comes in forever unless you liquidate that asset, of course.
So how long did it take you to build up to the business to the point that both of you could leave your jobs?
Yeah, it probably took us a good 2.5 years. In the last year, we could have already been doing land flipping full time, but we didn't have a green card yet. So we were already at the point where we were doing, 60 deals as a side hustle kind of thing. But we couldn't leave our jobs because of the green card. And the moment we had our green card, we were like, oh my goodness, we have freedom. And even there, we gave our employers like a 3-month notice, because we were in individual projects. And so we give them, we even gave them 3 months in advance so that we could even help replace, find a replacement, train the replacement, and continue doing, what we had found, our ticket to freedom, to the American dream. Yeah.
So just out of curiosity, I know that real estate is a numbers game, and I don't know if you're still using mailers to get your land flipping leads.
Yeah.
But just can you share the numbers? Like, how many mailers need to go out to get one deal?
So now we're looking, and I can speak not just from my experience, but also from our clients and students, because now they're working other states, other counties that, to be frank, we don't even have the bandwidth, to go after. And from what I know, from what we all gathered together, for about 100 pieces of direct marketing that we send out, and that means a letter. We've perfected this letter. Both Jack and myself are very left brain type of people, and where you test one word in one sentence and then mail out 500, and then test another sentence, and then to come to the one that gives you the best performance. It's like a true testing. And we have, for about 100 pieces of direct mail, we have 6 to 15 phone calls. And on average, for every 5 to, I would say, 1,000 direct pieces of mail, we have a deal, which compared to the housing world it's rock star, response rates. You have to send 10,000 mailers, sometimes a week, or if you can afford it, if not a month, in order to have one deal in the housing world. That's what's beautiful about this, is that whenever anyone thinks about real estate, everyone thinks about flipping houses, rehabbing, wholesaling. You think about apartments, you think about money lending, you think about notes, you think about, joint venturing with someone, you think about a passive investment, into, like, for example, an apartment syndication. You think about all of these things, and nobody thinks really about land, and nobody for sure thinks that land can cash flow, unless you educate, a person a little bit and let them know, well, there's this incredible window of opportunity out there. And I think the fact that we were both immigrants really gave us back then, and continue to give us almost like an unfair advantage in seeing opportunities that others miss, and really seizing that opportunity, having absolutely no fear of hard work. And because it isn't a rich, quick scheme kind of thing, it's going to require hard work. It's simple, but it's going to require work. So yeah, those are kind of like the stats for about every 500 to, I would say, 1,000, depending on the county. And why I say that range of between 500 and 1,000 is because it depends on the county, and it depends on the type of property that you're after. We're usually after 3 types of properties, and those are infill lots in a city. Yeah. And so that will be, a pricier kind level of property. We're also after properties in the path of growth, of a major city. So a county out, perhaps, from the main county where a big city is located in. And we also look at recreational properties like near lakes, hunting areas, just, wooded areas, especially here. I'm based here in Phoenix, Arizona. So counties that would be incredibly attractive on the recreational point, from a recreational point of view, would be, up Flagstaff, with you have beautiful ponderosa pines, and whenever it's 115 degrees here in Phoenix, it's in the 80s up there, So that kind of like recreational property. We usually also try to only buy and sell properties anywhere from the middle of the United States south, because it's a property that we can market easily all year round, versus not that it won't work in properties, in the northern states. It's just, for us, we always think, how are we going to market a property that is under however many feet of snow, in the winter? So we try to stay, on this middle to southern half of the United States. It's worked well so far to this day. We continue to do that.
And I like how you've been very intentional, and you created your offering, and then you started testing it down to literally single words. And then you do say, I don't think people realize the amount of effort that goes into something. You're sending out 500, 1,000 mailers. You said, in the residential real estate, 10,000 mailers. That's a major investment to send out 10,000 mailers to close a deal. And I think people need to realize what the numbers are behind doing this. I think everyone makes it seem so glamorous and so easy, but it's not. It's hard work, and you have to do the hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And in my mind, compared to the housing world, we are like at a 10x multiple of fees in terms of like the fact that I know that I'm not going to have the competition. If I'm in any given specific market, you have 1,000 house wholesalers, and I work a county where, I'm one, maybe there's another competitor, and the county's so big that we barely cross each other. I mean, just Texas has over 250 counties, you know what I mean? So it's like, a lot of people always say, oh, okay, this is a niche that perhaps at some point is going to become saturated as well. I'm like, I don't see that in the next decade or so. Like, I've been doing this now 17 years, and we've been teaching others how to do this. Like, if I wasn't either of an abundance mentality and I would see the competition, I wouldn't teach it. You know what I mean? Seldom come across, our own clients and students. So I continue to do it. I love that it's, that now we can do it remotely. When we started, we actually didn't have Google Earth. We didn't have all these things. So when we started here in our backyard, pretty much Arizona. And it was Arizona counties because we felt the need to go and visit every property. 3 or 4 years into it, we're like, okay, with the advent of Google Earth, we don't need to go see any of our properties anymore. We stopped doing that. And what that opened our mind is that, oh my gosh, we don't have to just work our state. We work the states where it makes sense, where it's where it's profitable to go and find land, for the prices that we need and be able to flip it quickly and easily. So I love the fact that it gives us the ability to basically do this virtually. My husband and I, we love traveling the world. And as a matter of fact, yesterday I had shared on Facebook that just 2 years ago, I had homeschooled my daughter for half a year so that we could travel the world, because that was a dream of ours. And while traveling the world, we continue to flip land. Yes, we do have a team, but the ability to just, be wherever, whenever, location free, and not have to go and visit a property and meet with a seller, in front of a house or in their living room, to try to, manipulate them and talk them into whatever, you know what I mean? So I just love that. I love the fact that it can be done, from everywhere. The biggest drawback, I think, for land, though, because I also want to mention that there's all these benefits. You don't have to deal with tenants, you don't have to deal with toilets, with termites, with the complexities of figuring out how to estimate a roof repair or mold or foundation issues, or, not knowing what to do when you're screening a tenant, and so on and so forth. So it has all these benefits, but it does have the disadvantage of taxes. You cannot depreciate, a piece of dirt like you can depreciate an apartment building or a single family home if your comfort zone is, becoming an income investor of residential real estate, which there's nothing wrong. We did that as well. Back in 2009, we were from the land flipping. We were sitting on a ton of cash. Phoenix was for sale, and we went shopping, for houses that we could buy for $40,000, $50,000, and then put in maybe 5 or 10, and then rent for $900. And so single family is another way, another vehicle to do forward cash and have some tax advantages. But if you want to turbocharge those, we have found apartment investing to be, a formidable asset class too. So we have, our land machine, what we call it, our lean, mean cash machine, land, and then we park those profits and cash flow into apartment investing.
So now that you've achieved financial success, you've kind of created a much more abundant life. And I know you talk about living by the 4 F's: faith, family, flow, and finances. Mm-hmm. And also kind of from a spirituality standpoint. So I guess that's the question is, what does it mean to you to be connected spiritually?
I think many think that those two, that the material world and this spiritual world, or the outer world and the inner world, are two separate things. But as we know, they're really one and the same. For me, being in flow has meant a focus from what I call the what or the how to a focus on the who. And that's when we really started finding flow. And I'll explain what I mean by that. It really comes from two different angles. We started flipping land the first year about 60 pieces of land, the second year about 100, and then we're like, okay, we're working our butts off now in this new job that we have created for ourselves. So either we go big or we go home. And we decided to go big. So we used to put large land auctions here in Phoenix where we would sell 200 pieces of land in one day. In order to do that, it required of us, to start looking into building team. And the ease that we were able to create wealth was a result of bringing team. However, it was team that was not necessarily aligned with a mission, with a vision that was deep, and close to our heart, with core values. So you have a lot of mishiring and a lot of retraining and turnaround. And the moment that we started basically focusing on really our mission and our vision and core values, and thinking about not just the who from the point of view of them helping us bring ease by delegation, and from a very operational standpoint, but looking at them as like, okay, how can I bring, who do I want to be a hero to, And depending on who do I want to be a hero to and who am I here to serve, is the person that I'm going to bring on as a team. So we started bringing people that were like us, very entrepreneurial as well, that wanted a bigger future for themselves and others as well. And that's when we started to find ease and flow. You know what I mean? And so from that perspective, the who has been incredibly important to us in growing our business just from a pure operational standpoint. And in order for us to really scale and do more, yeah. But also, there's also flow and ease in just your daily rituals and your daily, and who, as in like you being the who, the most important who that is leading, that team and that company. And I don't think I started looking into really putting an emphasis on that who, which in this case was me, until 2011, where I was, even though we were already financially, oh my gosh, completely free, I kept on working and working and working and working to the point of almost complete burnout. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? Working. I'm already where we needed to be. I need to start now looking into how can I bring the freedom of time, not just from the perspective of, hiring out a job to somebody in my team, and buying myself, that freedom of time, but really creating that freedom, in your headspace, in your spirit, in your soul. How can I start, bringing that, that gusto for life again, and so that I can be there present, for my daughter. My daughter was born in 2007. And I'm like, eventually she'll be coming back from school. I want to be there, to instill in her great, study habits, homework habits, work with her on math, kind of like do what I had seen my mother do for me, as well. And so that's kind of like when I started discovering, okay, the most important who, I've been looking at other who's outside, but the most important who is me, and self-care and self-love is incredibly important. And I kind of like neglected that for some time. And I kind of introduced that back in, and I started with rituals as if, like, for example, I have days where, and I think I'm speaking as a woman, yeah? I have days where I cannot be a generator. I need to be a creator. And in order to be a creator, for creativity to kick in, for me to create opportunities, for myself and others, I need unscheduled days. How can I already start? And that was my thinking back in 2011. How can I already start thinking about, unscheduled days? Well, I'm the boss, I'm the boss here. Of course, I can just go ahead and decide that Wednesdays is going to be my unscheduled day. So it was kind of like this realization, this aha moment of discovering that, hey, I'm the boss here. I can do this. You kind of like forget. It's almost like you become a slave to the business and you kind of try to retrofit the life to your business versus the other way around, And I'm like, no, I can do this. And what else can I incorporate, so that I wouldn't have back-to-back appointments, that I could, even between appointments, between one call and the other, gosh, give myself 30 minutes, to go outside and smell the roses and hang out with my dog. Because I was at a point prior to 2011 where it was back to back. I was a complete generator of results, like I like, to call myself. And it was that burnout, that my body just physically not being able to do much more, that kind of like forced me into, okay, how can I also incorporate not just this left brain type of attitude, or tendency, but also that right brain, that more feminine, that more creative side. And for me, it came first with unscheduled time, then with rituals every day. And I stumbled into yoga. I did even a yoga teacher training. I'm 500 hours certified to be a yoga teacher. I never really went into the teacher training for the purpose of teaching, even though I did have to teach about 100 hours in order to, complete the certificate, but more from a life mastery point of view, And I got into it basically from the physicality, from the gross, and wanting to stretch because I was having lower back problems and just feeling depleted. And I noticed that when I used to go, when I was going to my asana practice or my yoga practice, which is more like the physical postures, I would feel, reinvigorated. And I'm like, how can I bring more of that? And so I would, go ahead and do that 3 times a week. And then I'm like, okay, how can I even bring something into a daily practice? And then I discovered meditation and pranayama, which is nothing but breath work. And so now I have daily rituals to help me also, me personally, step into flow, which helps me become a better leader, a better wife, a better mother. Yeah, just a better person. So I'm now all about how can we have the abundance in the generation, not just for me, but even within our team and in our company, how can they also be generating, but at the same time having the opportunity to be creators, you know what I mean? So just like I have that freedom, my team now has the freedom to take a day or half a day or however, whatever they need in order to be able to also, find that flow within themselves, not just in the outside work, but also internally, in your life, in your spiritual life, in your inner world. So now I want to bring that message out, to many more people. And this is not something that is exclusively for women. My podcast now, my Inflow podcast, I try to do a mix of, real estate investing and spirituality and flow and grace and faith, because I identify a lot with a lot of ladies that are trying to get it, getting it all done. But it's really not just a message for ladies. It's a message for everyone. It's men are also burnt out. It's not just us. Everyone falls trapped to the being in service of a business versus having the business be in service of you. So and that's why you see so many problems with relationships, marriages, or absent fathers that, they think that being 60, 80, 100 hours at work is providing for their family, when sometimes, maybe their family and their child, what they want is a little bit of time of, quality, powerful time, with them and so on and so forth. So I know that it's not something that is only for women, it's a message really for everyone out there, that how can we find ease? How can we find flow? How can we find grace? What support do we need at home, at work? From a lady standpoint, we're so much more easy to justify, support of a new hire at work and not so much at home, but we need support in both places. So I'm a big proponent of that as well. And just in general, how can we cultivate not just the flow, the cash flow, but also the flow in our daily life? How can we create that so that we can every day, have certain rituals that make us feel powerful, and I don't mean powerful with a negative connotation, but powerful to be centered, to be able to, no matter what's going on in your life, still be grounded in order for you to be, no matter what circumstance somebody is coming, to you with, that you can be of service, and not necessarily snap at people and short-tempered. Because I notice, at least for myself, when I fall into that is because I have not given myself the time to rejuvenate, to restore, to really take care of me. And that's when kind of like, we become, as my daughter would say, grumpy. Mama, did you do your meditation today? You're kind of grumpy. You know what I mean? So it's how can we bring grace, into our daily life, along with, yes, the abundance. Yes, we have to talk about money. Yes, if we don't talk about money, when we may end up homeless. And we do have bills to pay. And so I'm very pragmatic on that end. But at the same time, how can we bring this other playfulness? How can we bring flow? How can we bring spirituality into our life? How can we, start there? And if you think about it, when we start with ourselves, with having faith in ourselves, the next logical step, and I call it even like the extension of faith, is to then start having faith in the goodness of others. And from there, you start having faith in the unknown as well. But it has to start with yourself. And back in 2011, like I said, being burned out, I felt like that I didn't even have faith in myself in spite of all my accomplishments and all the things that I had, to show for. So that's what I'm out there trying to spread. I'm like, yes, there's a way, there's a method that has worked, that, that is proven, that can really transform your financial life. But don't forget about this aspect, which is the grace and the ease and the flow, And so I try to incorporate those, even in our community on Facebook, with our clients, with my team, with my own family. My daughter knows every morning she takes a few minutes to take a few deep breaths, and then in the car, she loves listening. We both love listening to Joel Osteen. And so faith, ease, grace, flow is now an everyday thing, whereas before it was just go, 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 go.
And I think you have to have that harmony in your life. And I think a lot of people are afraid that if they slow down, it's all going to crumble and they're going to lose it. But that's not true at all. When you slow down, you have the time for creativity. You have the time to see the bigger picture. You have the time to build your business even larger. But you need to give yourself the space to do that. You need to take a breath every so often and kind of let it sink in.
That's exactly what happened. It took me a good, I would say, 10 to 11 months to recover. And when I was, by using a lot of these practices, I was ready to go, and I was ready to go from a much more wiser standpoint. And it's allowed our businesses to really grow. My husband and I work together, and I always say, that we both need to have, time for self-care and for ourselves, especially because we work together. Because and even if you don't work together, if you think about it, you and your spouse are like, you think about it as an appliance, yeah? And there's two batteries to an appliance. If one battery is down, it drains the other battery faster. And I see it, in our business because we work together. If I'm the battery with the low charge, I'm a drag on him. If he's the low battery, he's a drag on me. So, but when we're both looking and making sure that we're taking time for ourselves to recharge, to rejuvenate, we can both be, fully charged batteries that basically charge each other with enthusiasm because, and optimism, because his wins, are my wins. And that, excites me and makes me go out there and have more wins. And that's that for him as well. And it's like a beautiful, upward spiral, if you want to think about it. Yeah. And it's infectious, with our team, with our clients and so on and so forth. So it's a gift, not just for us and our immediate family, but like it's a gift for others, and it's a gift for even people that I've never met that now I've been able to touch in some way, shape, or form. Using the real estate investing methodology, but with these principles of love, of self-love, self-care, flow, and so on and so forth.
And that's very true. When you build up other people, it becomes infectious, and you start to both drive forward faster than you could do if you weren't. And unfortunately, too often people are trying to pull people down instead of push them up. Today's episode is brought to you by Profit Comes First. Do you pay yourself first? Do you put yourself first? This isn't about greed. It's about ensuring you're on solid ground so you can support your company, your family, and your community. Too often, business owners focus on revenue growth, but that growth has to be profitable. Their eyes glaze over when they're handed financial statements because they're too busy enjoying the parts of the business they love. Having someone on your team who is focused on the numbers is important. Most bookkeepers and accountants focus on creating the reports, but they don't take the time to think about them. At Profit Comes First, I help you ensure the spread between the money coming in and going out is as big as possible. That the cash flows serve you instead of scare you. And when you get the tax bill, you have the dollars to pay it. Learn more at ProfitComesFirst.com, where you can also get the first 2 chapters of Profit First for free. And you can also schedule a no-obligation chat with me. I know in your business, I believe you use profit first. How has that been helpful to ensure that you're always profitable?
Yeah. There's a very masculine tendency out there, which is to always, from a business standpoint, rave about your revenues and talk about, oh my gosh, I have a 7-figure business or multiple 7 figures or 8 figures and so on. And we have fallen into that trap ourselves. But judging basically the financial health of a business or even your personal financial statement on just revenue is completely immature. Yeah. And why I say that is because, yes, you might be having and boasting 7 and 8 figure revenues, but how much are you keeping? How much are you actually taking home? And how much profitability are you really capturing? Every month from either your business, your job, if you're a professional, and I think that is a much more true and accurate picture, because that true accurate picture of profitability is what then allows you to allocate those profits into investments that are going to be producing more passive cash flow. Because if you're all revenue, but you are at the end of the day of, in spite of having a 7-figure job, only producing, $150,000 that you're taking home at the end of the day, you know what I mean? For me, that's still a job, you know what I mean? And so how can you start looking at your business, not just from the false metric of revenues, but of profits, and how can you start making more with less? And what I mean by that is because you have the money now and you are a 7-figure business, you tend to, I'm going to have a marketing budget of this, and I'm going to, salaries of this, and you start hiring and so on and so forth, versus trying to figure out, what profits do I want to make? And these are the resources. And kind of like back into it. These are the profits that I want to make, and these are the resources that I have, and how can I make the most out of these resources so that I can produce the profits that I want? So it's like, instead of going revenue, expenses, profit, you're like, let me look at profit first, and then these are the resources that are left. Can I accomplish what I want to accomplish with the resources that I now have attributed, to being able to produce these profits? And then that's a different conversation, but that's pretty much the principle of profits first is like, how can I create this first, and instead of squandering resources and only basically materialize, what I have left over and walk away with that as profits. No, how can I think about it from the end goal first and then reverse engineer how much my expenses should be, So that's an important distinction, because it allows you to then, if you create profits and you're walking away and keeping enough, you are then able to transition from what I call being income statement wealthy, which is basically being wealthy from, either your business or your job, and only having that set amount of paycheck basically to spend. If you start looking at, profitability first, and you have some profits, you can start using those profits and moving them into assets like apartments, that now create and build up your balance sheet, so that those assets in that balance sheet start creating passive cash flow for you. So I think there's an intimate connection between profitability and the ability to be able to move from profits which sit in the income statement and move them into balance sheet, so that the balance sheet starts producing cash flow, and that cash flow is the one that pays for your expenses, and so on and so forth. So I know it's a little bit technical on the financial statement side, but I kind of I see it. Maybe it's my background in finance. I see it so clearly,
And it's true. And I think too many people get caught up in that top line revenue, and you hear people brag about their revenues, but you rarely ever hear people talk about their profits and bragging about their profit and how much they're able to take out of the business. And unfortunately, there are so many companies, especially large companies, and especially in Silicon Valley, who are unprofitable. Companies like Uber, and there was just a big one that went under just recently, WeWork, that they're spending $2 in revenue for every dollar that comes in. And you can't do that. It'll last for so long, but then the bubble blows up. So you do have to focus on the bottom line. One of the things that I find very helpful, and I'd love to hear your input, is to be part of masterminds, because they help you get more input to make yourself stronger. What's been your experience with mastermind groups?
It's been, I think, an incredible game changer for us for many, many, many years. Jack and I kind of it served us really, really well. For many years, we were completely isolated. We had like blinders on. We were like, hocus pocus focus, get in line, stay in line. This is what we do. If it doesn't, fit our box of land, it's not for us. You know what I mean? And so it served us well in that gives us incredible amount of mastery, because we were able to have incredible amounts of repetition of the exact same asset class that met the specific box. And with repetition came mastery, and with mastery came almost what I call a PhD in making money. However, the moment that so we were isolated for many, many years. It was just us doing that and focusing on that. And then we started doing masterminds. And what that allowed us was to also scale and also see what other people out there. The only thing with masterminds for us, and we always, are wary of that, is that there's a lot of amazing things and amazing people doing amazing things. And you can easily get distracted, in what others are doing. But if you go to a mastermind with the outcome of how can what this person is doing translate for me, and how can I adjust it to what I'm already doing, you know what I mean? Or can I deviate a little bit in somewhere in the future, that deviation still meet with my target vision for my life, for what I want out of life? They have been amazing. In terms of personal growth, not just from the point of view of like practicality of going and presenting in front of a group of people and feeling completely vulnerable, because you're going, at least the masterminds that I have been going to, we go because we don't have the answers for everything, Yes, we are successful, 7 and 8 figure business owners, but we don't have the answers for everything. And our team and our clients look to us to have the answers for everything, and we don't. So for us, the moment we started, going to masterminds, it was an opportunity for us to come in there humbly and say, hey, yes, look at everything that I've done, but I don't have the answers for everything. And humbly ask, for answers. What have you done? Have you come across such an experience? Most of the masterminds that I've been a part of, Rocky, have had two aspects to them. And one aspect has been the giving aspect, where you bring, a best practice, something that is incredibly working well in your business, and you share it with the group. Even our ultimate boardroom, which is a mastermind as well, that's one of the key ingredients. And the other key ingredient is I also have all of these great things going on, but I'm either having this challenge or am I having this opportunity? How can I evaluate it? Or how can I, what have you done in a similar challenge? And so because of the nature of both of those two things of giving and gaining, from coming there humbly and asking for for answers for challenges that we may have, had for several months at a time, we're able to solve problems quickly. Something that would have taken us a quarter or 2 quarters to solve, we have the answer quickly. We all of a sudden, if that person in the mastermind doesn't have the answer, they know someone that has the answer. And so it's an incredible opportunity to really increase your network and like a friend's little boy says, a stranger is only a friend that you haven't met. We've been having the opportunities to, forge amazing friendships and business collaboration and opportunities as a result of my mastermind. So I'm a big proponent of that. There's nothing quite like a group of individuals, kind of like vibrating at the same frequency with the same levels of enthusiasm and optimism and coming together and helping each other and growing together. I mean, there's nothing more beautiful than that. So yeah, I'm a big proponent. I've drank the Kool-Aid on the masterminds. If you ask me, I love them. And, Jack and myself invest. We are part of 3 right now, an individual exclusive real estate investing one that we've been part of now for almost 7-8 years. I'm also part of Strategic Coach, which is a 10X Ambition program, and it's also a mastermind kind of setting. We're also part of a female a female business owners group, or I am part of that, called Premier here in town. And we host our own mastermind called the Ultimate Boardroom. And just recently this year, we added the multifamily boardroom just because, we know that our growth into the future, into the next decade, because we're right now in the last quarter of 2019, and we have been doing apartment syndication now for the last 4 years, and we want to grow in this area. So we know that we can grow so much faster than if we were in isolation in this space. And so we joined this year a multifamily boardroom as well, which is a mastermind on apartment investing. And already there, it's been invaluable. The connections to brokers, to other operators, syndicators, on how to, create your financing packages better, how to operate and optimize, the properties better, what markets to look at. It also gives you an opportunity to get together with people, from other places in the country that are seeing what's happening in the real estate market in their markets, and kind of like gives you like a little crystal ball into the future, because all of a sudden, you have you have access to their genius, and not just their genius, but their knowledge and the pulse that they have on that market. And so from just keeping pace with the economy and what's happening and what's in it, and what is there to expect, it's also an invaluable resource and tool. So whoever's listening to this, if you have an opportunity to invest in a mastermind, look at it as that, as an investment. Because yes, we paid $15K for one, $25K for the other, $50,000 even for another one. And with one idea, with one aha, within weeks, we've had our investments back. So just as I am prudent and respectful of my money, because I know it's the exchange of the best of me for the best of someone else, when I know that I want to get to a certain vision, I know that there's certain strategic investments that need to be made. And for the most part, they have been investments, in ourselves, in training, in technology, in people, in team. And part of those investments in people is surrounding yourself with amazing people out there. So, yeah.
And that's very true. So what's one action step people can take to move forward this week?
I think the biggest action step, I would say, would be to actually do something. I think so many of us suffer from paralysis analysis, from constantly doing research, from constantly, or at least I'm a very fact-based person, so I love doing research. So I know from my standpoint, the biggest thing that I can do is every day is actually do something, actually take action, not just what action, but start working towards it, whatever it is, one baby step at a time. I always think that, that fear loves time, and the longer you take, the less likely you are to take an action. But courage loves speed. And if you can do one thing today that you've been procrastinating on, go ahead, and even if it's a baby step, take it, do it, and try to not think that you're taking baby steps by doing busy movement. Actually do something that will bring you closer to that goal, So get curious would be another action step. Ask questions. Do a level of research, whatever you feel comfortable with. But sometimes we need to start just doing things and not just overanalyze and research the heck out of everything. So at least that has allowed me to really almost like collapse time and get further faster. Even though faster is not necessarily the game here, but I know that if there are sacred ambitions that you've had, deep yearnings of the heart that you've been putting to the side because you're waiting for the perfect time, for me to have the perfect weight, for, your children to be of perfect age. Waiting is a freaking trap. So I actually love this question of what action steps would be to just do something, take action in that direction, make sure that it's not busy movement, and start moving and start stepping into and making that gap between where you are and where you're going to go, smaller. So that would be my advice. Yeah.
Excellent advice.
Yeah.
It's time to learn the secrets of life. What's your secret to living an abundant life?
I think for me, my secret to living an abundant life has been not just thinking about myself, but thinking about how can I create a bigger future, not just for myself, but for others. And I think when we start looking outside of ourselves, it really, whatever it is that you're doing, starts taking much more of a purpose-driven mission energy with it. And when you're thinking of how can I solve problems for others, it has really catapulted us to incredible amounts of success when it hasn't been about us, about me. That would be my answer.
And that's very true. The more people you help to achieve success, the more they help you to achieve success. What did you learn later in life that you wish you would have learned sooner?
I think I touched upon it, and I think I wish I would have. So there's 4 pillars to business, the why you're doing it, who, what, and how. And if my focus would have been on the who much, much quicker, I think I would have already been living that freedom of relationships and purpose way sooner, within the context of my entrepreneurial journey. So the moment that we started focusing on core values, on alignment, of everyone in our team, clients with those core values, really it's when things really, really took off and they took off and we were having fun, you know what I mean? And it was it was tap dancing. It's tap dancing to work every day, the moment we started focusing on that. So yeah, that would be it.
And I think that's a big one. Too often entrepreneurs think they have to do everything themselves, and allowing other people to help you and do things is the fastest way to scale. What's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
One piece of advice that I would give to my younger self, I think it's an advice of courage. It's an advice, again, of faith. I think maybe the fact that I grew up in a third world country, with a lot of corruption, and everyone wanting a piece of you every day. It wasn't when I was growing up, and I wish, it would be much more so now. But even in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, I wasn't thinking like that, that my goodness, there are a lot of good people out there. And there's a lot of good people out there, that want to help me, succeed, and that I am there to help them succeed. And so I think having faith in the goodness of others can only come from having faith in yourself to begin with. You know what I mean? Because it's extending that faith outward. So that would be one thing that I would say, okay, focus on having faith in yourself much more sooner than you did, so that then you can extend that, faith and having faith in the goodness of others. There's some amazing people out there in the world doing amazing things, and we all have access to tap to, each another's genius and collaborate. I think the future and the growth of business in general, in entrepreneurship is collaboration. And if I'd known that sooner, I would have. That's definitely it would trickle down to relationships. You sometimes, somebody does something good or positive for you and you freaking doubt it. But if they do something negative, you never doubt it. You know what I mean? So it trickles to every aspect of your life, that if I would have had much more faith in the goodness of others from the get-go, things would have been easier. I would have not felt like I was constantly pushing.
if people would like to learn more about your company and the different things that you do and connect, what's the best way for people to find you?
Yes, you can find me on michellebosch.com, but you can also join our Land Profit Generator Real Estate Investing Facebook group. It's a community of over 6,000 land investors. And we are very proud to have created a community that is incredibly generous with their knowledge, with their time, to celebrate not just successes, but also to build each other up and to create. And if there's any challenges in the actual methodology, everyone is there that is 2 steps ahead, willing to share their knowledge to the person that is 2 steps, behind. We are there. Our coaches are there every day answering questions. And if you're, curious at all into what this land flipping thing is, there's a quick and easy 1-hour class that you can go to landprofitgenerator.com and kind of like understand a little bit more what this whole land thing is all about. Which, like I said, it has been the cornerstone of our wealth because of its simplicity, predictability, and we've been able to do it in any market, pretty much in any market cycle. We've been able to flip land and, like I said, create for ourselves almost $12 million in notes, $7,000 in passive monthly cash flow. That would be a great way to get a hold of me. I'm also on Facebook at Michelle Bosch, on Instagram, Michelle Bosch Official. Excited to connect with anyone that that resonates with my message, with what I'm doing, or that is just curious about land investing in general.
And thank you for sharing. We'll have all those in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Rocky. It's been a 1 hour, very well lived. Thank you so much.
I really enjoyed the conversation with Michelle, and she actually connected me with her mastermind. The power of masterminds is incredible. I'm thinking about starting a mastermind. Are any of you interested? If you are, just email me, rocky@richersoul.com, and say, I'd like to be part of a mastermind, and we'll see if we get one started. Michelle's advice of do something, take a baby step forward to whatever your goals are, is so important. Too often we get stuck and are paralyzed figuring out the best course of action. That's where coaching and masterminds help. They get you out of the grind. They create the lubricant to get you flowing. You probably have more opportunities and options in front of you than you can see. Sure, you're going to have to do the hard work and keep showing up. You have the choice to create a life of faith, family, flow, and finances in your own unique way, but you have to do something. Create that vision and get to moving. What's preventing you from moving forward, and who are you putting on your team to build the life you deserve? Taking no action creates a far worse outcome in life than trying something and failing. Can I help you achieve your goals through coaching and accountability? Just email me and we can start with a short chat to see if we're a good fit for coaching. For many people, one session allows them to take a giant leap forward towards their dreams. If you're still listening, you must have liked the episode, so please share it with a few friends. It can start a great conversation, and I'd appreciate it. You can also connect with me on Facebook. There's both a Facebook page and group for Richer Soul. You can always get me at rocky@richersoul.com. I'd love to hear how you're doing and how the information I've shared has helped. Thanks for listening. Have an abundant week.